Mr. President.
Senator from Vermont.
Ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, if you talk to the people in Vermont, and I suspect in any other state in America, they will tell you that the most serious crisis facing this country is the lack of decent-paying jobs, particularly when it comes to young Americans. This is an issue we do not talk enough about, and this is an issue we have got to focus on. Yes, we are better off today than we were 6 years ago when we were hemorrhaging 700,000 jobs a month and the nation's financial system was on the verge of collapse. But the truth of the matter is that the economy for working families and lower-income families today remains in very, very difficult straits. The middle class of this country, the backbone of this country, continues to disappear, and more people are living in poverty. In fact, we have almost more people living in poverty today than at any time in the history of this country, and all the while we are seeing more wealth and income inequality such that 95% of all new income generated in America since the Wall Street crash is going to the top 1%. Now, the fact of the matter is that real unemployment in this country is not the official 6.1% we see in the front pages of newspapers. The truth is that if you count those people who have given up looking for work because they live in high unemployment areas, or those people, and there are many of these, who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, Mr. President, real unemployment is 12%. That is a crisis situation. Now, as bad as that is, the unemployment rate is far worse for young Americans. Today, the youth unemployment rate is 20%. 20%. We all paid a lot of attention to the tragedy in Ferguson, Missouri a few weeks ago, and yet what was not discussed is that African American youth unemployment is 33%. In many areas of the country, it is even higher than that. Mr. President, today over 5.5 million young people have either dropped out of high school or graduated high school, and you know what they're doing? Nothing. They have no jobs. And many of them in Vermont and throughout this country are hanging out on street corners, and many of them are getting into trouble. Maybe they're doing drugs, maybe they're involved in crime. But this I will tell you, and the statistics are very clear on this. If you leave school, either you drop out or you graduate high school, and you don't get a job in your first year, you don't get a job in your second year, you don't get a job in your third year, there is a strong likelihood that you will never get a job, never get a career, never make it to the middle class, never be part of mainstream America. Youth unemployment, 20%, is clearly one of the reasons why in the United States of America we have more people in jail today than any other country on earth. A lot of people don't know that. China is a great big country, communist, authoritarian country. Doesn't China have more people in jail than we do? No, we have more people in jail than China. And, Mr. President, I think the time is long overdue for us to start investing in our young people, helping them get the jobs they need, helping them get the education they need, helping them get the job training they need so they can be part of our economy, part of the middle class, and not end up in jail or dead from overdoses of drugs. Mr. President, the situation is so dire that there are studies out there that tell us now that 1 out of every 3 African American males born today, if we do not change this, 1 out of 3 will go to prison in his lifetime. 1 out of 3. This is a crisis situation, and it's one that cannot be ignored. Mr. President, what the legislation I have, along with Congressman John Conyers of Michigan, have introduced today legislation called the Employ Youth American Act. And this legislation will provide $5.5 billion in immediate funding to states and localities throughout the country to employ 1 million young Americans between the ages of 16 and 24 and provide job training to hundreds of thousands of other young Americans. Under our bill, the U.S. Department of Labor would provide $4 billion in grants to states and local governments to provide summer jobs and year-round employment opportunities for economically disadvantaged youth with direct links to academic and occupational learning. There's another $1.5 billion in there to provide such services as transportation or childcare, which would be necessary to enable young Americans to participate in job opportunities. I am very grateful that this legislation has already been endorsed by the AFL-CIO, the largest labor union in the country, representing some 13 million workers, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, the United Auto Workers, the United Steelworkers of America, the Campaign for America's Future, and the National Employment Law Project. And I want to thank Senator Debbie Stabenow for her support of this legislation as well. Mr. President, we cannot continue to ignore the crisis of youth.